Hey, well, good afternoon. Today is August 7th, 2023. You are in the Rowan County, North Carolina County Commission meeting, our first meeting in August, and we are honored that you are here to spend time with us, and even more honored if you're at home watching this. You got to get better things to do. So anyway, welcome. We are pleased that you're here with us. It's our tradition that we begin with a couple of things. One is we're going to have our chaplain come up, Chaplain Taylor, our good friend of Rowan County, and he's going to provide for us what's called a solemnizing prayer. And I always define that for you. Solemnizing means it's not for you. It is for the commissioners. We feel stressed about making decisions that are in the best interest of everyone in the county. And so we'll have him come forward, and he prays for wisdom for us to make good decisions. And we're also going to have a pledge of allegiance after that. Commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Thanks for here today. Thank you for praying on behalf of the county commissioners, dear Lord. Thank you for their presence today, where you give the wisdom they need today to make the right decisions, dear Lord. We do thank for them and thank for the preparation they make for every meeting and all the in-between things they take care of. We thank that too in Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chaplain Taylor, for being with us. I have one addition to the agenda, and that will be item HI. It is from the interlocal detention center agreement between Rowan County and Richmond County. That'll be item HI on consent. And then I've got a couple of deletions. We're going to delete on the active agenda items C and D. Both are economic development things, and both of them just needed a little more time to get items wrapped up. And EDC called and asked if we just remove those today, and they'll move on them at our next meeting. Anyone else have anything else we need to add or delete, commissioners? All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? So moved. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Let's see. And then do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. I think we don't have any special recognition, although I will say, and I texted Commissioner Green about this, we should have thought ahead to have the 10 and under softball girls here today because we can have them at the next meeting, though, 6 o'clock, maybe moms and dads can join. But if you've not heard, our 10 and under girls won the Southeast Regional Championship, and that's significant. In the 10 and under, they don't go any further than that because of, they're just kind of young. But they won, how many states is it, Jim, that represents? It's down to Florida.
There's about 8 states in it.
Yeah, so they won the championship in that, and the trophy is taller than all of them. But that's a real honor. And then our 12 and up girls who have won 2 World Series championships. And again, put that in perspective, that's World Series around the world. That's what that means. 25,000 teams, they've won it twice. And so they're back in the World Series, and they won their opening game on was it yesterday? Last night, won 5-0 against, I can't remember who it was. But anyway, this is Steve Yang's team and his coaches, and they've been there before and they know what they're doing. And we're just really excited for them and how we are turning out these talented young ladies. My wife asked me, what's the secret sauce? And you got to say it's coaching, right? I mean, they're just, but something about Rowan County girls, man, really doing a great job. So we're thrilled with that. And so we'll be cheering our 12 and up girls throughout the tournament, and you follow along with us. We have anyone for public comment? No? Okay. All right, then we'll move on and begin with a regular agenda item, agenda number A, letter A. And Ed, come forward. Ed, welcome. Glad to see you.
Good to see you. So this particular agenda item is a legislative hearing to consider Fisher Athletics' request to rezone 1.86 acres from RA to commercial business and light industrial. This would apply to a portion of tax parcel 310-247. So the site is labeled conspicuously as site there on the map. Fisher Athletic is located on Cauble Road, which is just north of Salisbury, between Old Knoxville and US 601. This is an aerial photograph of the site, and Fisher Athletic has about 70 full-time employees. They have been in operation in some capacity since 1970, and this is their headquarter location. They specialize in the manufacturing of training and competition use equipment for football, track and field, and basketball. If you've ever looked closely, I know Commissioner Green's probably seen them, but they're everywhere. Their padding is ubiquitous in the high school and the middle school athletic world around here, and even in colleges and so well known. Prior to 1999, the site was located in Salisbury zoning jurisdiction. It's interesting that when I look back at some of Salisbury's legacy files, in 1976, the council rezoned this portion of the property here to M1, which is light industrial, to support, and I quote, the family business operating in the area since before zoning was established in the 2 mile ETJ, and the rezoning was necessary for the non-conforming use to expand. So they've had a couple of rezoning or map amendments to occur since the business has been in operation. I think the original structure was here. It's about 7,000 square feet. That expansion that probably happened sometime thereafter was here, and it's about 17,000 square feet. And then in 1998, the city approved this rezoning of about a half acre here to add to their parcel. And this is about a 20,000 square foot building there. So they've had a couple expansions, again, under zoning. So this is the first one that we've seen. In 1999, the county had discussions with Salisbury about taking back a portion of their ETJ area. And it's not as evident from this map, but you can see here, this yellow line, that was the previous Salisbury ETJ. And then in 1999, the county took back a portion of this, and this red dotted line is what the current ETJ is. This map was in the Z1699 case file. It's been scanned, and you can see it here. Here's a little bit better version. I mentioned this before. It was previously located in Salisbury zoning jurisdiction, and the Z1699 case was one where we convinced the city to allow us to take back a portion. These areas, and especially this one, if you see the site here again along Cauble Road, the M1 zoning district transferred nicely into what we call CBI. And so that's what the property is now. It's zone CBI. And most of their other districts that had been some type of zoning category transferred almost to an identical county district at the time. This is the site. Wanted to show you that sometime this past year, they acquired about 1.86 acres to the I guess west of the site. Yes, to attach to the property. And so this is what it looks like from a zoning map perspective. The red indicates the CBI zoning. The portion to the west, the 1.86 acres is zone RA, and under that standard, they can't expand as they would like to do so. Any questions so far? This is a general rezoning. We look at our West Rowan land use plan. Area 2 is the area in green. It generally follows the outskirts of the municipal areas and the 2985 corridor. The primary use that's viewed in this area is residential. The property is not located in a community or regional node. As the recommendations for commercial are, they focus on those nodes or highways for commercial uses. Although rural businesses are appropriate on major and minor thoroughfares, the Ferris Rowan MPO street appendix does recognize Caldwell Road as a minor thoroughfare. Looking at the CBI districts, the purpose and intent offers a wide range of commercial, business, and light industrial activities. The CBI designation applied to the facility was deemed consistent with the city's M1 district. Since this is a general rezoning, I wanted you all to get a feel for the comparison of uses between the RA district and the CBI. If you remember, one of the tenets of our RA district zoning is if you live on the property or adjacent to it, you can do a lot of uses. You can do a lot of things up to 10% of the lot size, and that maximum building size is capped at 12,000 square feet. So when we're doing a comparison, residential is allowed in both construction, manufacturing, transportation, wholesale trade, retail trade, services, and public administration. Most of those uses are also allowed in CBI. So really the comparison is there's not a difference in uses. It's just the fact that there's a limit on the size in RA districts. It's up to 12,000 square feet is the maximum size. Did point out there's a couple primary differences in CBI that aren't allowed in RA. That's going to be food, manufacturing, textiles, drugs, soaps and paper products, manufacturing, or soaps and paper manufacturing, oil and gas storage, brick and metal wholesale, and drug and alcohol treatment centers. So those are where your differences lie between permitted uses and proposed uses. Looking at the site, north of the area is RA zoning. There's some vacant tracts and residential uses on the east side of Caldwell Road. South of the site, again, these are carryovers from Salisbury zoning. They tend to be residential, but they are zoned CBI. They have been that way since '99 for us, but they're still residential in nature. East of the site, there's a Northridge subdivision. It's 31 lots. I think it's a double wide community there, Dan Wesson Way. And then to the west of the property, there's some larger tracts that have somehow one house on it, but it tends to be vacant. But if we look at this from a zoning map or a composite map perspective, you can see a little bit better. The red obviously is the existing commercial area. The site term there just overlaps property that we're talking about. South of that is Salisbury's ETJ. Surrounding the property, it's all green, and that's the RA district. And then to the west, you've got some residential suburban, and then moving west further towards 601, you've got some rural residential. Looking at the traffic in the area or the thoroughfare designations, most of the roads that are radial leading out of Salisbury are going to be Woodleaf, 601, and Old Moxville. Those are the green color-coded roads. Those are the major thoroughfares. The minors are the connectors that are running east-west. You've got West Ridge Road, East Ridge Road, and Caldwell Road as well. Remember, I said that rural business is appropriate on minor or major thoroughfares. Here's one of your designations. See, the capacity of the road is just over 13,000. We've got less than 1,000 ADT on the road at either end, being the East Ridge or the 601. So the road is not at or near capacity. We've been through these a number of times in the past, just some staff observations or recommendations. It's not, this request is not inconsistent with the West Rowan land use plan. We know that the business has been in operation since 1970 in some capacity. The district is consistent with the adjacent CBI and others along Caldwell Road. Caldwell Road is a minor thoroughfare and under capacity, and we have seen that they just recently acquired the property adjoining them. So what are we doing here today? We're conducting a legislative hearing. The applicant is here. If you want to ask him any questions or public comment as well, we'll be glad to answer any questions. You can close the hearing and develop your statement. The planning board statement is there at the bottom of the page. So that will be an easy one to use if you want to do that. So real quick, the general rezoning, not a whole lot of fanfare about it. Any questions?
Thanks, Ed. Any questions for Ed? All right, if not, then we will open the floor to conduct a public hearing. If there's anyone that is here that would like to speak to this legislative action. All right, seeing none, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And we've got statements of reasonableness and consistency. I'll read those. ZO2-23 is consistent with the West Rowan land use plan and is reasonable and appropriate based on the following. 1, it allows for the parcel to be consistent with existing structure. 2, it increases tax base and job creation. 3, the property has been in non-residential use since 1970. And 4, the purpose and intent of a family business is present. I'll make that in the form of a motion. We have a second. Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have a motion to approve Z-02-23.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you, Ed. Let's see. We'll move on. Shane, SNIA 02-23. Performance Pit Oakridge LLC. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is also a legislative hearing, and the board's seen many of these watershed requests through the years. This will be our second one now that's subject to a legislative process, which is a conditional district rezoning. This location here is at 371 Pitt Road. It's a 1.29 acre tract. You look at the outlined property here in blue. The property is in Performance Park, which is one of a couple different non-residential parks out.
Excuse me, Shane. Whoever's in control, can you make that picture bigger, please? Is that you or is that April in the back?
I think at the back, they might have control.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the purple colors and the red represent either industrial or CBI for the zoning designation. But this is where the bulk of our watershed allocations come from, and especially those in both Cottle Creek and Back Creek, Sloan Creek. Always go into our watershed map. We want to start with where specifically we're requesting the watershed allocations. So if you look in the lower left corner, you see the yellow star, and that's within a blue area, which is a watershed 2 balance. What you don't see, there's a dividing line using 152 to separate Back Creek, Sloan Creek from Cottle Creek. So this location is in the Cottle Creek watershed area. Of the Rowan portion, we have right at 12,000 acres. And for the request, we can allocate 10% of that watershed and treat up to 70% impervious coverage. We've removed at least part of 92 parcels, and that represents about 164 acres. So we have a little over 1,000 acres remaining. There's a 2022 aerial imagery, and you see the subject parcel here. adjacent and approved in 2019, these are some building pads that are just now being realized. That was a watershed allocation granted for that location, and also this one here too. I think their building's finished. It's a race car shop. Also 195 here off the screen. That was earlier this year. So when our new photos are updated, you'll see much more development out there too that have been allocated. If you look at Performance Park plat, this is a 12-lot development platted in 2000. The red labels indicate the case numbers that have came before the commission before. And you see our lot here is the last one remaining in that park requesting the watershed allocation.
What are those after the hyphen? Is that the year?
Yes, sir. First one here is in 2000. And then I think the most recent one was right beside it. So sandwiched between the first and the last is this request.
Been a while then.
Yes, sir. And this lot here that I mentioned before actually was not part of the park, but was added to it. And that's the LaFlamme family property. I think they're doing a race car shop. Doesn't look the best on the screen, but this is the subject property outline here. And they're proposing a 12,000 square foot race shop. And they also have a small little parking lot and access area here for the site. And here's some statistics here. It's a 1.29 acre tract that we would be removing. And that second bullet point's the key. Without coming to this board, staff could grant 6,743 square foot, which is 12% in that watershed. And with their 12,000 foot building and a little under 12 at 11,381 for other impervious, that totals about 42% of the site. So anything over 12 and up to 70 would come to this board. And that's why you're seeing it here. At the bottom are our running totals. And depending on the best way you want to look at your 10%, if you think of our 100% of what we can allocate in that bottom number, we're at about 14%. Last year, we did look at some land use plan recommendations, I think adopted earlier this year, but this is sort of a guide that we go through each time. None of them are make or break requests, but gives board additional information and making a decision. And on the very top, it's under the 2 acre threshold. I think whether it actually materializes or not, they are proposing about 7 jobs. Again, there is a building involved. It's not just a big gravel open storage. So several box checks there. We don't have any other earmarked projects, capital improvements, school needs that we're aware of. We don't have an overabundance of commercially zoned property and needed watershed allocation, so we're good with that balance there. It does comply with the other plan recommendations. And then most directly is the last bullet point here. It's within one of those industrial parks that are prior to 2023, and it's encouraged there. Notice goes out to adjoining property owners, sign up. We did get one call, only curious, because that part of the community is not familiar with this. Before it was just an administrative process through the Board of Commissioners approval. So nobody concerned with that proposal. And Planning Board recommended unanimously to approve. And you have the statement of reasonableness, consistency here for your consideration. So we would need a motion on the statements and a motion to approve. Also a public hearing. Any question?
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
I've got one question, please. Can you go back about 4 slides? Also where it's at. This is the last lot in the development, is that correct?
In Performance Park, yes, sir.
Was there not a slide that we saw that showed on the other side other parcels that could be added to this?
Good question. This is the LaFlamme family out of Arizona. This property, it actually, when the development came in, it bordered all this land here and kind of gave them free frontage, built the road. They were adjacent to a public right of way now and took advantage of that access there. So this one big lot used to be 2 lots, was actually rezoned in 2006, if I'm not mistaken. That's not really part of their covenants, but they do have frontage, and that has been allocated too, but it wasn't part of the 12 lots.
Jane,
Will that property need to,
It was prior already.
has already been approved?
Yes, sir.
All right, I didn't understand that.
Problem.
Jane, could you just give us the number one more time? The total, let's see, you said there was like 1,000 acres that are remaining that can be used yet?
In Cottle Creek. Every time we provide numbers, these are going to be watershed specific.
Okay.
So we have a little over 1,000 left.
Okay, so is the way the water runs then, is it which direction primarily?
Mouse has a mind of its own, but 152 is the ridge line, so it's going to
Mhm.
drain this way,
Okay,
back towards Cottle Creek.
thank you.
All right, if no other questions for Shane, then we'll open the floor to a public hearing. If anyone would like to come up and speak regarding this SNIA request, please come forward. Not seeing or hearing anyone, we'll close the public hearing. And I'll read what's been presented to us, statement of reasonableness and consistency. SNIA 02-23 is consistent with the West Land Use Plan and reasonable and appropriate. Based on the following, it allows the parcel to be used in a consistent manner with area parcels. It will increase the tax base and job creation. Request is less than maximum allowed. And the request is from an existing industrial park as recommended in the plan. Make that in the form of motion. We have a second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And do we have a motion to approve SNIA 02-23? Have a motion, second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Shane, thank you. All right, we're skipping over items C and D. Moving on to item E in the West End Plaza Health Department Advanced Planning. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. So we're excited about today. It's been a few months. We were hired to do advanced planning, which means we actually met with each department at the health department. And I'll kind of go through the process. And today we'd like to get a motion to move the project forward. If that's the case, then we would give you a fee proposal for full service, basically from start of the project all the way through construction. So that being said, we're going to get moving on this. So like I said, the first thing that we've done, we met with the director of health department and all the department heads, and we came up with a square footage for each department. So what that equates to is, kind of fast forward this, presently at the current health department, there is about 25,000 square feet. And if they go into the West End Plaza, they are really growing right now, and they need approximately about 40,000 square feet, a little bit more than that. So again, we went through each department. We have the dental, WIC isn't part of that, finance administration, health education, care management, personal health, and then also environmental health. So from this study, the first thing that we did was we looked at where the location would be best suited for the health department. And we came up with a few diagrams. Each diagram was analyzed by the Department of Health, and we came up with this solution. As you're coming in from the mall on the right-hand side, Right now, this is showing approximately about 44,000 square feet. So it's just a tad bigger than our programming, but it fits very nicely in the space. This has taken over the existing Dollar Tree space, and there's a space vacant to that. It is not touching Badcock furniture. Just want to make sure that you all know that Badcock would still be in operation if this project does move forward. The intent of this bubble diagram is to really show how people can come into this facility and understand where to go for each department. The building that's they currently in is a little bit overwhelming. If you're coming in as a patient to the facility, you're kind of winding around the facility. So we kind of designed this like a mall effect as you're coming into the main area, either from the outside or even from the each department from the outside. But if you're coming in, there's a main lobby area with all departments, and we'll have some identities along that corridor. So think about that kind of the mall concept that we're doing for the Ag Center, just on a smaller scale. From that study, we actually took it a little bit further. And the reason why we started doing a kind of a schematic design floor plan was for our cost estimator, professional cost estimator, could really get a good idea of the cost for this project. We'll talk about that in a moment too, but I'll just kind of quickly go over this. Same concept as you're coming in to the main entry. You've got this long hallway with a kind of a common area, and you can really start to see each department, how they kind of lay out. So this actually reflects what we did in the bubble diagram. We just took a little bit further, kind of showing the exam rooms, all the office space, conference rooms and things like that, and public toilets and everything else like that. We also want to be conscious of natural light. So on the right side here, we are proposing to do some punch windows, and that'll allow some light into the existing, into the new office space and things like that. We'll also have some glass in the front to give some identity to each of these departments. So if someone's from the outside, they can get to the department right from the parking lot instead of going into the facility. Again, just make it easy, accessible for patients to come in and utilize this facility. From that, we started looking at the existing mall itself and kind of understanding what to renovate. And we want to be cognizant of what we did at the Ag Center architecturally. We want to start using the same materials. We want to kind of have that more rustic look to it. We want to have that stone. And we want to start to implement also different alternates. Cost is everything, as you know, in today's dollars. And right now we are looking at a few alternates, and I kind of go over that. The first alternate, number one, is, I could move this thing over, but alternate number one is really just the facade where the proposed health department would go. It would be the Dollar General as well as the vacant space to the left. We were proposed to renovate just that facade as well as the side facade where the windows are going. And then back, we would paint the concrete block. So that would be alternate one. Alternate two is to extend the renovations from Badcock, renovate their facade as well as the main entry into the mall. Right here is about the mall entry, and kind of wrap around what JCPenney's is. And we would not renovate anything with JCPenney's because we don't understand or we don't know who's going in that space yet. But if you wanted to, we could do all the renovations and at one time and part of base bid. But we thought what you did for the Ag Center was actually really good. You have all these different alternates. And so at bid day, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Site work. Site work on this is again, it's a large area. It's very similar to what we did at the Ag Center. We would propose to do new parking, new paving. We would also propose to do landscape islands. And we also propose to do another traffic circle. The idea of this whole thing is to reduce the amount of traffic that people are going through as fast as they can right now. And we want to minimize the speed out there and also give an identity into the main lobby space for the, not for the health department, but for the mall. This area here would be the area for the health department. So the red area is proposing to do is alternate number 3. Again, landscaping, asphalt paving, traffic circle. We did not propose to do anything at the old restaurant here. If you wanted us to, we could take the parking and renovate that area. Again, we don't know what's going in that space. That might be reconfigured at a later time. Alternate 4, it would be the last alternate that we have. We would propose to do a new drive all the way around the building. Again, new paving. There's a parking lot here. We would renovate that parking lot and take the renovation on the existing asphalt all the way down to the left, right where we're starting the Ag Center. And so when this project is completed, the entire area for site would be renovated. The entire back part of the building would be renovated. The only thing would not be renovated would be JCPenney's. Okay, so that would be our proposed 4 alternates for the project. So alternate 1, we came up with some design concepts. These are not new. What we did was Bob and I looked at the existing agricultural center and said, what type of existing fabric can we use to make it blend and cohesive with what's going on with the Ag Center? Because eventually this whole thing will be renovated. It'll be a seamless facility. On the left side is the starting of the health department, and we would renovate the facade, and we did a main entry here all the way over to we hit Badcock. So that would be alternate 1. And alternate 1, I'm just gonna quickly go through it here, would be new canopies, new signage. We do some hardy board like we're doing at the Ag Center. And then you can start to see that cultured stones to kind of give that rustic look to it, similar to what we're doing at the Agricultural Center. We also want to enhance the space. There's a lot of sidewalks as you're coming into the facility. So we want to reduce the sidewalk, add some new sidewalks, but also be conscious of landscaping. So we want to kind of soften that feeling from the parking lot into the facility, and then start to introduce some, at the main entrance to the health department, introduce some concrete pavers as we're doing for the traffic circle. So that would be all alternate 1. Just to the right of that, if you wanted to, do alternate 2. Alternate 2 would start from just about, hard to do on this remote, basically starting with Badcock and go all the way over to the main entrance to the mall. You can start to see the traffic circle, and then we would wrap that articulation all the way and kind of terminate to JCPenney's area. Here's a view kind of looking at everything, alternate 1 and alternate 2. And you can start to see that traffic circle. You can start to see the traffic islands. And that's really going to start to reduce the traffic speeders going through there, because this will be a 3rd traffic circle that hopefully will reduce the amount of people speeding through the parking lot. Start to see again, the articulation. We're using hardy board, again, new canopies. Then you can start to see the entrance into the mall. And then you can see some type of landscaping in the center, as well as the concrete pavers as a drop-off area into the mall area, and also slow down traffic. Another view looking at the main entrance to the mall. Okay, so what does this cost? So our professional cost estimator looked at all these alternates. Base bid, I'm just going to go over that, is the interior renovations only of the health department, no exterior renovations at all. And we're at about $14,571,156. To give you in context, that was about base bid for the agricultural center. And agricultural center was about 63,000 square feet. This is at about 43,000 square feet. And you're going to ask me, why is it smaller footprint, more money? Escalation, you got more studs, you've got exam rooms, you've got a lot of little offices that actually increases the square foot for the cost. The agricultural center, the meeting hall area, is more wide open, so your per square foot cost would actually go down a little bit. Alternate 1, we again, and this is only at the health department, exterior renovations, new entries and canopies, only at the health department, and we were around 1.275, 254 million. Alternate 2, again, that's starting from Badcock, working your way around to the JCPenney's. And that's, again, doing the exterior renovations, new entries, canopies, health department. all the way around the Board of Elections, and that's $1,581,055. Alternate 3 is exterior renovations. Again, it's that large parking lot, doing the traffic circle, traffic islands. That's coming from J.C. Penney's all the way over to the Health Department. That's just a little over $2,152. Alternate 4 is doing that drive that takes you to the backside of the facility. East Drive to the Health Department in the parking lot area behind the building. And that really would complete the entire facility again, except for J.C. Penney's, and that was around $100,000. So construction costs right now, we're looking at, if you want to do all the alternates as well as the base bid, $19,664,395. We always like to put a contingency in here. So we did an owner construction contingency of about 7.5%. When you're doing renovations or running in different things, I know we are running a little bit things on agricultural center, and that was at about $1,472,000. So total in for construction costs is just a tad over $21,106,975. Then we have owner soft costs. That would be any type of surveying, construction materials testing during construction, designer fees and things like that. And that's anywhere from like 15 to 20% of the total construction costs. And we evaluate that right now at $3,156,988. So the total cost for the project, funding, not just construction, but construction, including total costs, designer fees, we're looking at $24,263,963. And these numbers are escalated for the future for about a year from now. So we feel very comfortable with these numbers going in if you wanted to start design of the project. So right now we have a motion to basically, if you want to move the project forward, that'd be great. Our first step would be to give you all a fee proposal from the designer side to get the project moving and start from there. But that being said, is there any questions you all have?
Being the tree person on this board, I didn't see any what I call real trees quoted in your alternative 1 where we're talking about the islands.
Yeah. So I mean, just right here, there's some silhouette of trees and things like that.
Yeah. See, for me, that's not a real tree. But I meant like out on those island strips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back to that. Yeah. So there's trees in there located. Can you see them?
I can see them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the Ag Center, we also had EV parking. So we could propose some, a couple spaces for EV parking as well, if you wanted to do that.
And there's plenty of parking then for future employees too then?
Yeah, you got, I mean, remember this was the mall, kind of go back to the, excuse me. A very large area. So we're talking about everything in the red would be alternate 1, and you've got spaces there. And remember on the left side, that's what we're currently working on for the agricultural center is redoing all that parking. The same articulation, new paving, new striping, new light poles, landscaping, islands, and things like that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So that entrance near the roundabout there,
Yeah.
is that fixing the, there's kind of an odd entrance there with like 2 sets of doors here, then there's another set of doors that kind of poke out. Is that fixing that where it's just one?
We could if it's problematic, we can definitely look at that. Yep.
Always thought that was kind of, I didn't understand.
Yeah, it's got a little bit different, isn't it? Yeah, what we would do is actually look at the occupant load to make sure we have enough egress doors out of the mall there. And then we could definitely look at maybe doing a double door instead of 2 double doors.
I don't know. I mean, I guess Judy would know. How many exam rooms are there now at the all those that are. Oh, I got it.
I know. I didn't bring the numbers along. I wish Alyssa was here.
She is
Where is she?
right in the middle, right in front of your face. Yeah.
Madam Director, do you have those numbers? Our mama to be here.
Sorry for waddling. We have around 14 exam rooms, and so that is shared with our immunizations, our maternal health clinic, our adult sick and well, and our child sick and well. So this would be an expansion of that.
I don't remember. Was it 22 exam rooms or was it more?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Was there 22 exam rooms in the new one? The new model?
Like, me back.
Oh, I saw number 22, so I didn't know if that's.
Yes,
Hard to
that
see.
includes that. And so part of that was one, factoring in with Medicaid expansion, the additional patients that we'll see, but also the separation that we need for infection control between the sick and well patients that we haven't had before. In our space currently, we are seeing both immunization and prenatal patients, but the potential for sick patients to be in there. So this would allow us to separate those folks so we wouldn't have that infection crossover potential.
That was a real problem during COVID. We only have that one little waiting room, and we had both sick and well patients sitting there with no real dividers.
So this is for, obviously if you have 14 and you're adding roughly a third, I guess, more, is that figuring future growth or is that what you need right now?
No, this is absolutely projecting future growth as well. So making sure with Medicaid expansion and what's happening with Medicaid transformation, we have a lot of providers who are now ending their contracts with Medicaid because of how difficult actually working with the prepaid health plans is. So we are anticipating one, new patients from that over time, but also with expansion, obviously those 13,000 new patients potential being eligible for our services. So we're really trying to make sure that we're doing this once and we're not having to come back and ask for more space and more space. I'm really trying to capture, okay, what are we doing in the next, 10 to 20 years?
Alyssa,
Yes, ma'am.
how much of your budget now is Medicaid reimbursement?
Ooh, I am not sure off the top of my head.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you could get that to us all, I think that's important in what the growth might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the majority of our patients are Medicaid. So we do have Medicaid in the 5 other prepaid health plans. And then the reimbursements that come as a result of that. If I would say a rough estimate right now, it's about 60 to 70%, more so of Medicaid patients than we see of other third-party insurance providers or self-pay individuals. But I'll get those final numbers and send those over.
What's the current number of folks eligible? You said they are blessing us with a new 13,000 eligible patients. What is the current amount?
Ooh, I am not sure off the top of my head about
And
that.
if they are giving us additional patients, will any of these facilities be paid for by the Medicaid expansion plan, or is it left to the county to pay for this?
So we
Seems to me like we're not alone.
right.
We have 100 counties that now are going to be inundated with a whole new group of patients and not have room or staffing to do this. So who pays for all of this?
Right. So we do have the AUBP payments, which I can't remember exactly what that stands for, but the more patients we see, the more we reimbursed for that. And also our Medicaid cost escrow settlements that we get every year that we have been banking. So we do have a bit of funding that we can use for renovations for this specifically that we've kept sort of in the back of my mind or back of our minds that, hey, we're going to need this funding to help support the future endeavors of the health department. But it would be nice for that $1 billion that's coming into the state to be going towards health departments. I know that they have really allocated it towards behavioral health, but it would be great if it would come to us as well.
Mr. Chairman, there's there's about 11 million in ARPA money, and then we're estimating approximately 4 million in Medicaid reimbursement that can be used for this building. And like Alyssa said, it's not future money. That's money we've escrowed over the years that's supposed to be spent on Medicaid. It has to go to for example, there are all these different programs. The program it comes out of, it has to go back into, and sometimes it's hard to spend that money where it came out of, but this would be a way to spend that money in a permanent place. And it's possible that future money could go to pay any debt service. But if the board is interested in a project like this, I think you could safely say approximately $15 million could be paid up front from money on hand from the federal government, and potentially, depending on what the project comes in at, if it came in at, let's just say 20 million, and you had 5 million you wanted to finance, we could earmark future Medicaid reimbursement monies to go to pay that. Although it would be hard to estimate the actual amount because it's reimbursed, but you could say all future Medicaid reimbursement go to pay for the debt service in the building.
And we receive about $1,900,000 to $1 million in that Medicaid cost settlement. It's now allocated a little bit differently. So we've seen that decrease because the other payments have increased, but absolutely work with the county manager on what that looks like going forward.
So specific to that, will our Medicaid allocations that are being returned go up as the number of Medicaid patients increase?
So we should receive more funding for the Medicaid patients as that patient population increases, and also as we increase meet our quality measures that we have to meet per those prepaid health plans. So, and we did choose to be an AMH Tier 3 organization, which means we are an advanced medical home, which allows us to receive an increased reimbursement as well. And so that just means a little extra work, but we think our patients are worth it. And it's to get that reimbursement is great to then put back into the system.
Hate to bring this up. I know we talked about the question of DSS and health department always being together. And so we're kind of chewing off half the elephant here. In the future, is there going to be space for them out there? Or have y'all thought about that, talked about that?
At West End or currently where they're at?
Yeah, West End.
At West End? Yeah. So I don't think I have the diagram, but there's a lot of square footage. There's a lot of square footage that is still available at the mall for DSS. Remember, you got JCPenney's. Eventually, if you wanted to remove Badcock, eventually, if you wanted to do that, there's space there. There's a lot of square footage still left in the mall for some type of department, and it could be DSS.
And probably I would,
Oh.
no, I would say for future DSS, I mean, if we're able to do all these options for the exterior, then I would think DSS may be a little less expensive because you don't have to do the outside of the parking lots because they've already been done at that point. So we're just looking at the footprint of DSS at that point, but I don't know how many square feet they need.
Well, the Big Lots building is 26,000 square feet. Empty. I think we need to slow down spending some money right now. I think we done spent enough. I agree with the ARPA dollars. We need to go ahead and invest them into the property, but Lord, we got to slow down.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I think this is one of those things that kind of irritates some people is that government has these pockets of money. We have this money sitting here that we could use for other things, but obviously we can only use it for the health department or something similar. And we've had that ARPA money sitting in the account for a couple of years, and we know inflation's going up, so it's getting worth less and less. And
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
And there's a deadline
okay,
to spend it. 26.
$15 million.
The approximately 11 million. It's, Anna's telling me 11.3, but the 11.3 has to be spent by the 26. The 4.3 is really just going to keep growing. The reason for that is fairly complex. Some of it has to do with prior accounting. Another has to do with, we talk about annually, how are we going to spend this money? And, like for example, a particular program, I think is it maternal care?
Yes, maternal health is one of our Medicaid programs.
We receive a lot of Medicaid reimbursement back for that, and we really are maxing out at this time the amount of staff we need for that program. So it's hard to take the money and funnel it back into the program. So we just end up banking it, and it sits and accumulates. The only Medicaid, and I'm certainly no expert in it, so, but the only Medicaid reimbursement that we can spend anywhere we want in the health department is dental. And that's just one of the, I don't know how many programs, but all the programs get Medicaid reimbursement, and it's really hard to spend the money back into those departments.
We have about 25 agreement addendum we receive from the state. And if we receive a grant, it's that agreement from the state, we have to use any revenue back into that program specifically. So it's everything family planning, maternal health, child health, STD. It's very, very specific for where it can go. But this is a great opportunity for us to use that money knowing it's going to go to those patients where it maybe would be harder to spend programmatically.
Yeah, so we could, just for example, the 4.3 million we have, if you go back to the, well, let's take this chart right here. If we sink, let's say that, for the sake of conversation, a quarter of the 4.3, $1 million is maternal health. We could easily claim $1 million is going into maternal health here, where it's really hard to spend that money operationally, or it has been in the past. So that money will just sit and continue to accrue interest. Now, if you go to the estimate chart, Philip, if the architects donate their services, really alternate, the base bid, which is the health department, pretty much is paid for. If they donate their services, which they probably won't, but, so really, and I'm not saying we should or should not do the program, or the project, but if you just took base bid 1, we really probably have enough money to do that one. And if the estimate is 11.3 plus 4.3, 5.6, possibly even enough to pay some of the architect fees if you don't do alternate 1, 2, 3, and 4.
but you also said there's possible $900 to $1 million a year that you use for debt service that has to be used at the health department,
Yes, of Medicaid.
which is probably what, $9 or $10 million. If you were to borrow it.
You mean, what would the debt service be on?
Well, if you had $900,000 a year for debt service,
Yeah, times 10.
that's about 9 million-ish.
Yeah, and if you did, well, without interest.
So in theory, I mean, if the bids come in correct, all this is paid for without any additional revenue coming from general funds.
Yeah, and we, ADW has done a good job thus far. And with the last one, they were way overestimating, we can, which, some of it's luck, some of it's good job, because it's a crazy economy. I mean, this could come in at 35, it could come in at 15 for the whole project. We just have no idea what's going to happen. But, you could safely say that just to do the base bid and the fees, we probably have almost enough cash right now that is not local dollars. It's federal money that we either spend or we're going to have to send back, especially the ARPA. If the bids come in lower and they're overestimating, you may be able to do close to the whole project with federal dollars, but we won't know that until the bids come in.
Well, I think what Mike's saying is if we have enough money to pay for the base bid, but if you have another 900,000 a year coming in, and you capitalize that from a loan perspective, then we may do the whole project with no local dollars. Now you're gonna have to borrow money, but the 900,000 would pay the debt service.
Yeah, we would just have to, to make sure, to be 100%, make sure that it's okay to, earmark future Medicaid reimbursement to go towards capital expenses.
I'll say it out loud. So post, get ready for this. If there's one thing I think this group is really focused on is there's an old saying in sales, nothing happens till something's sold, right? And what this group has spent a lot of time doing is trying to bring our bottom group of income wage earners up for reasons exactly like this. And we kind of kid ourselves. We've got 20,000 jobs heading our way in the next few years, paying 2 to 3 times what that lower income level group is used to earning, plus benefits. We talk about this, at least we talk about this all the time. Folks really trapped in this lower income level, and we've got a big group at Rowan County. Still making minimum wage, working 2 or 3 jobs with no benefits, kids at home, no one helping with education. It's affecting every aspect of our life, right, Sheriff? So we've got what we have been working for coming here. And we were, I think, naive enough to believe that if we raised the sights of Rowan County wage earners, that we could start reducing the demand on these services. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. Not from this. Now we can say whether the federal government's working with us or against us. I'm not getting in that discussion or debating that, but you guys put out a brochure every year about how much money is coming in to social services in Rowan County, and I couldn't believe it. It's like $250 million a year, not for the state, not for the region, Rowan County, $250 million. So, we know they're cramped over there. We know they're all over top of each other. We knew when these guys decided 10 years ago to buy this, that this is what part of the plan was. We had hoped that the demand would be going down because things are getting much better here. And there's so much opportunity that's here and coming. And it's a fact of life, I guess. A lesson for the naive, I guess, is what we're saying. And but we still have hope that we'll make things better. We really have a heart for raising the sites and the standards and the hope of that group of folks who has been left with slim pickings. We've got Macy's coming, $46,000 a year. Husband and wife together could be making $92,000. I don't know if they'll still be out of the sights of this. Is 92,000? Well, they'll be providing health insurance. We'll have an announcement, I think, here pretty soon. We're starting to see lower numbers of employees, companies hiring, but $65,000 a year for 180 jobs. We've got lots of those that are working right now, and the wages, and these are for high school graduates. So we would hope that we would see them kind of move into the mainstream of good wages, good benefits, health insurance, vacation, 401k, generational wealth is what we're talking about, and really moving our county forward and what our goal is. So 10 seconds more. What you're asking us to do is to move ahead. And so county manager, could we just ask them, I guess, what do you do? Do you then design, if we said do the full thing, then would you go, what's the process at this point? And we can bail at any time. You could actually get bid for all the alternates.
Yeah.
And it come in and we just say, no way, we can't do that. Or we could say,
The same thing you did at the Egg Center. I think we had 8 alternates or
will
12.
you pull that mic up?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Thanks.
8 or 12 alternates. And yeah, at bid day, you can pick and choose what you want. You don't have to take everything. That's what's nice about doing base bid plus alternates. But the next step would be for us to give you a fee proposal for the whole thing. And then we have to take it through design, SD phase, DD, construction documents. We get cost estimates at each phase, right? Come back to make sure it's in budget. If we got to change it a little bit, we would do that internally. We would oversee the bidding process, and well, if you wanted to move this thing forward in construction, then we will oversee that as well.
Do you have a Groupon coupon coming up anytime soon? We could clip. Isn't there like do 2 projects, get the 3rd one free, nothing like that?
Yeah, there might be some overlap. But we did, Bob and I were talking about it. We've got a really good start on the program, so we don't have to go back to do that. And the floor plan is in really good shape. We feel like we were kind of like in the schematic design phase, which we would give you guys a credit back for that work, because we would go back and meet with each department head and really focus in and start to really analyze their departments to make sure that we've got everything perfect, and then move the project forward. But we're in a really good spot right now. We've taken it pretty far for kind of an advanced planning phase, and we feel like we're actually a little bit further. We've got some of the elevations, as you can see, the renderings, the floor plan. So we're ahead of the game right now. And then we would give you some money back from our fee as a credit back for that work that we've done.
So you said that this is future priced,
It is.
and what'll lock it in
It's
going to be your bid process.
Yeah, we don't want to give you a number of today's dollars because it doesn't make sense. You want to know what's going to cost at bid day, right? So these numbers are based on from the drawings that we have. Again, it's a floor plan and some renderings that our cost estimator looked at. But our best guess right now, with the way the economy is and everything else, these numbers we feel as of today, not today's dollars, but in the future, looking in the future, that it's about almost a $25 million project, all in.
All right, I'm sorry, I have one more question. So then what's going to happen with DSS? Are we going to be asked then to renovate that whole facility for them? Or can we just change the sign outside and let them start dragging stuff into offices?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair question.
It
What
is.
is
Yeah.
the cost of that going to be?
Yeah, when the health department moves out, that 25,000 square feet is vacant that they could move in. And there might be offices they just take over.
Okay.
We would have to, if you want us to look at that, we'd have to analyze that, meet with them, understand their needs, their future needs, I should say, and see if the existing health department that they could easily just move into some of these spaces. Obviously, the exam rooms and things like that may not be necessary for their program space, but we definitely could look at it and see if it's probably more economical for them to take that over and then to move the entire department to the Weston Plaza.
Well, I just think in our planning mind, our process here, that it's fair for us to say, if this came out to 24 million and we figured out a way to, are we going to have to, in the back of our mind, acknowledge that we've got another $3 million bill left behind at DSS to do whatever, so then the cost of this project is not 24, it's 27.
If you wanted to do something with DSS, it'd be more than 25.
Eyes wide open is what I'm advocating.
It's going to be easier for them to renovate an existing facility that they're right next door than it is to basically move them out completely and put them in Weston Plaza.
Yeah. All right, I'm done.
What the timeline wise, would the Ag Center be done by the time this would start, or would they be an overlap?
It might be about the time that the Ag Center is finishing up construction would be about the time that we're starting construction for Health Department.
So
I don't think there'd be much overlap. It may be, hey, we're finishing Ag Center and we're bidding Health Department.
So I was just wondering, I know it's whoever bids wins the bid, but having that company already there, would they be able to put in a lower bid already on site saying we'll just move down to the other end of the building and start working?
They've been talking to me already about that. They would love to do the job.
Do they have a coupon? Anybody?
They may, if they could just roll into the project, call it phase 1, phase 2. I don't know if you can do that to keep them on site. That would save the county some money. We can talk to them about that too. Any other questions, comments, or anything?
I don't know about coupons, but they've got ability to create change orders. They're good at it.
Not us, Wharton Smith.
So Aaron, I think what I hear that we're interested in is not approving everything, but asking for a price for everything. And then we can either, we don't know what it's going to take you 6 months, isn't it?
Probably 10 to 12.
Okay. 10 to 12 months. So the whole world could fall apart between now and then. So what, Aaron, just coach us here. What does this board need to do to move ahead, but not commit to anything?
The next step would be to do an RFQ for design services, because the requirements for federal money are different than when ADW was first selected, however many years ago. And so what the first step would be to authorize the manager to do an RFQ for design services for what ADW has just shown us. So we would send that out in compliance with the uniform federal guidance. And then once we would get the responses back in, select the most qualified designer, the board would approve that firm, and then it would be to negotiate a price with them to do the design, construction documents, bid, and construction management.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? So if the board wanted to make a motion not to authorize an RFQ for design services to design and construct what ADW's presented. That would be the first step.
How's this timetable going to affect the federal mandate that something has to be done by December?
What is the 24th?
So by
Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
December
December 31st of 2024, we have to have this money committed to be spent on a project,
Oh,
the whole 2024. So we've got, yes.
We've got a year to get the bids in and
I
get
mean,
the
it
contract.
takes, it's going to take them a while to do this design. So that clock is ticking pretty quickly. I mean, it'll be here before you know it.
And the RFQ will set this back about probably another month to select the most qualified design firm.
Y'all.
It all depends on who submits qualifications.
I don't know if I'll say this right or not. You'll have to help me, Mr. Manager, but I would move that we authorize our county manager to put out the RFQ for design services to design and construct our new health department.
That's good.
second.
All right, any more discussion?
That's with all the alternatives.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank you so much.
Well, here we go. Thank you, guys. Good to see you again. All right, USDA lease proposal. Hi, Ian.
Hello. Hopefully this will be a little easier discussion. As you know, we've been in the process of negotiating with the USDA for lease space in West End Plaza. That's already under construction in the Ag Center. They have requested some additional or tweaked information from us, and what we'd like to do is submit the items that are listed on your memo, the proposal to lease space. Let's see, that's April, that's the IGSA form 1364. Okay, so the only difference here is where it is in item number 9, where it says ANSI BOMA office area. They asked for, we didn't have a number in there before. They asked us to enter in that calculated number of 5,326 square feet. And then additionally, the column, let's see, a little bit lower, column E. Oh, too low. Go back up a little more. Up a little more. Sorry, scroll back to the first page. Okay, there, scroll down a little to see column E where it says annual rent per ABOA SF. What that does is it just provides the same rates that were listed before under the, I guess, the rentable square footage rate compared to the ABOA square footage. So that, as you can see, the 675,000 estimated cost for the build out there has been amortized over 10 years at an estimated rate of 7. And that gave us that $18.12 per square foot. If you scroll down just a smidgen, April, tiny bit, there we go. The 244,505.68 is what the annual rate would be for years 1 through 5. What that includes is the build out costs plus the shell rent of $17 per square foot plus operating costs of $12 per square foot. So the total rate would be $47.12 per square foot. Over 5 years, that rate is about 1.2 million, a little more. And then we propose to a step rent or a step rate in the shell rent on space 20 down there of 18 per square foot for years 5 through 10. And that brings us up to about $1,248,143 for years 5 through 10. So the total amount would be about 2.47 million as income over those first 10 years. So that's the first change. The rates themselves have not changed. It's just that square footage for in space number 9. The other items, there's a seismic Form D there. That is just the representation that we are exempt, that West End Plaza is exempt from the seismic standards because it is under 10,000 feet that we're offering to them. There's also the representation, let's see, yep, that HFAR. That's representation regarding certain telecom and video surveillance because, and Randy can confirm for me if I have this one wrong, but that's just representing that we're not providing anything beyond just the wiring in the walls. We wouldn't be providing any sort of surveillance or video cameras or other equipment that's external to what the wiring would be. And then finally, the TICS table is just an itemized listing of the tenant improvement costs for that $675,000 estimate that was there. So what we would be submitting would be those items plus conditional commitment of funds, which comes from the meeting minutes that were held, I believe it was January 23rd, where the approval for the funding and so forth was discussed and approved by the board. And beyond that, if there's any questions, be happy to do my best to answer them.
So I want folks to understand what's happening here in the West End Plaza renovations. The USDA reached out to us and said, hey, if you're doing that, we'd like some space out there to be along with you. And they want to build out and rent 5,189 square feet. And they're going to pay us $244,000 a year rent over 10 years, roughly. So Amy Lynn, would you, I'm putting you on the spot here, would you come up and tell us who they are and why they want to be with you out at the mall?
Sure. Well, currently the Farm Service Agency is one of those USDA offices, and they already lease office space from the county in our current agricultural building. And then there is another USDA offices that are the Natural Resources Conservation Service offices that are regional offices. They lease some space in Salisbury in a strip mall. And those are regional offices that are not open to the public. It's just office space for those regional offices. And they're also through a USDA lease. And so when we approached our FSA offices that are currently leasing with us in the county about our move, those regional offices their lease was already up with the strip mall in Salisbury. And so at that point, they were talking with their USDA liaison, and they said, hey, we would like, Salisbury, Rowan County's looking at a new facility. Maybe we can move where they're moving. And then that's when the USDA lease liaison decided that they wanted to combine those two leases. And this actually makes it a nice working situation for all of us in the ag community, because those regional NRCS folks are folks that we work with on a regular basis. They cover the entire state, but we do utilize their resources. And they come in, are speakers for us. They offer a lot of the cost share programs that are offered through NRCS, through our state programs. So while their offices aren't necessarily offices where the general public would come and visit them, having them housed here in Rowan County, right next door to us, gives us like extra ability to access their programs. And then that also just allows their FSA office to, you know, compound their lease together. So that makes it very nice for USDA to have, you know, a combined lease all in one. And then us have more access to more ag-related buildings altogether. I did want to ask about, because there are some concerns about vehicles in the parking lot that stay overnight that are government vehicles, and where those will stay. I didn't see that on the lease, so I'm glad to not see that on the lease because I didn't have an answer for that when I was asked about that question about where those vehicles would be parked at and if they would be in a secure lot or not.
So they're not asking for that, it
They're
appears.
GSA vehicles, so. But that's where those natural resources folks come from. So it's a real added bonus for all of us. Other questions?
No, thank you. That's a good explanation.
The FSA is currently paying 15,000 a year.
15 a year. They're going to 245.
Looks like it.
Winner, chicken dinner.
We are adding some of the, square footage and some of the other folks, but it's not like, you know, it's pretty much all new revenue.
Yeah, it's good.
Minus 15,000.
All right, any other questions? If not, then we have a recommendation. I'll make a motion that we approve for the county manager to sign and submit the attached documents, provide additional information to USDA for the lease proposal for space in West End Plaza. Have a second?
Second.
All right, Craig, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And thank you. Appreciate it. All right, board appointments. We've got maybe three. East Gold Hill Volunteer Fire Department. Fire Commissioners Lynn Bost applied for a county seat on East Gold Hill Volunteer Fire Department Fire Commission. Also, Jordan Waller reapplied for the Town of Faith ETJ seat. So we have a motion and a second to approve those two. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On JCPC, Cheryl Salpaw applied for substance abuse professional. Now, Carol currently resides in Davidson County, but she is a center director for Davidson Ryan Outpatient Daymark Recovery Services. So she's seeking approval for this open position as she represents this county. So do we have a motion to waive the residency requirement? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then do we have a motion to approve her for the JCPC
So
council?
moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye. And that's all we've got. Looks like on that. And then this board is asked to enter in a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A1 to consider approval of the minutes of the closed session held on July 17th, 2023, as described by North Carolina General Statute 143-318-10E, providing that minutes or an account of a closed session may be withheld from public inspection, so long as public inspection would frustrate the purpose of a closed session, and pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve attorney-client privilege regarding airport lease negotiations. Make that in form of motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we'll get started as soon as we clear the room. Thank you all. Closed session. All in favor, say aye. Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.